everybody, JustusRStone here today talking about volume number 4 of The Devil is a Part-Timer. Now, in this volume, we have the fallout of volume 3 where the Devil's Castle has been kind of wrecked. There's a big honking hole blown in the wall from the end battle and the last book. And so the demons find themselves getting kicked out so that the landlord can do repairs on the apartment building. Now, at the same time this sort of tragedy or like massive event happens in their world, Sadalmau's McRonald is closing down so that they can sort of refurbish the place and expand it. So he finds himself not only homeless, but also without work. So now, what is a demon to do? Well, he lucks out and he gets offered a job at this sort of beachside diner, sort of like little beachside resort place that is owned by the niece of his landlord. And so, with much trepidation, the demons set out to sort of do this old work so that they have a place to live and so they can keep making some money. Now, if you were looking for another volume that was full of danger and villains at every turn and sort of a constant threat hanging over our heroes' heads for the entirety of the book, this is probably not a volume you're going to love. However, if you love the characters of The Devil is a Part-Timer and you really just love reading this series for the way that the characters interact with one another and how they develop and how their relationships are developing, then this is probably going to be one of your favorite volumes so far. Because this one, it's really, I can only say that there's two main reasons for this volume to exist. Reason number one is to get our female cast into bikinis, and reason number two is to advance the relationships between our characters, particularly I would say that sort of mother-father dynamic between Mao and Emmy when it comes to Alice Ramos. This volume sees growth in pretty much every single character and probably some beginnings of new directions in the relationships between a couple of the characters as well. It also sees little tidbits dropped about the future of the series. Now, I said in volume number 3 in my review of that book that there was enough stuff said in that volume that sort of was setting up a path that I could see going forward in the series. This one, while it isn't filled with all sorts of action and so forth, there are more than enough little events and everything else that drop a whole bunch of juicy hints as to what we can see in the series going forward. For instance, we start seeing the machinations of some of the characters we haven't heard from in a little bit. We start seeing how the events on Ente Isla are going to start affecting our heroes on Earth. We're seeing how Ente Isla, even though they've gotten rid of the demons, well, not gotten rid of the demons, but kind of pacified them a bit, we see that again, humans pretty much suck when it comes to dealing with other humans. So they're not out of hot water yet either. So there's a lot of directions for this series to take, and it is developing into a bigger and bigger story, which is funny when there's quite a lot of humor and we have some really, really enjoyable characters in this series. It doesn't seem like the kind of series that could get really heavy-handed, but the story is certainly expanding at a really rapid rate at this point, and there's a whole bunch of different sort of elements in the air right now that you can see even in a more character-focused volume like this one. You can still see these sort of things that are going on behind the scenes and starting to get a hint of exactly where this series is going to go. I also really liked that in this one, I don't want to give away a whole lot. I certainly don't want to ruin anything, but let's just say that we start getting a hint that maybe our world, this world that the demons and the residents of Ente Isla find themselves on, that maybe our world isn't completely without magic. And that opens a whole bunch of other doors too. What I really like about this series and appreciate about this series is that every single volume seems to build just a little bit more on the backstory of the characters. We find out more and more about the demon world and how the demon world was organized and how it was that Mao became the Demon King and led the demons into the war with Enta Isla. We find out more and more about a lot of the political underpinnings and backroom machinations going on Enta Isla, that maybe a lot of the forces that were behind Emmy were not quite so righteous as what we may think. But it's not done in a massive info dump. We get sort of bits and pieces here and there at times that make perfect sense in the story. I really enjoy this one. The characters, for me, this is like such a great series for that. And like I said, this volume, if you really love the characters, if you love just reading the characters interact with one another, you'll really enjoy this one, because that is the bulk of this. This is a very character-driven volume in this series. There is not a lot of action. In fact, the main sort of thing about them going to this resort and stuff, they don't even go to the resort until almost halfway through the book. So it's very, very driven by the characters and by the events in their lives. This is much more of a slice of life novel than, I would say, the previous 3 entries in the series. So those are my thoughts on volume number 4 of The Devil is a Part-Timer, one of my favorite light novel series so far. Now in my next video I'm going to be trying out a new series, and that is Overlord. I just got this one this month, and I'm pretty excited to check it out because quite a few of you have told me that the anime for this was really good, and I've heard from a couple of other people that I guess have checked out fan translations or perhaps like foreign translations of Overlord that have said the light novel is a really good one, despite it sounding very similar to a bunch of other people from our world trapped in a video game world kind of stories. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this one is like and giving you my thoughts in my next video. So make sure you click on subscribe either above my head or in the description down below so you can check out that video, as well as all my future videos on The Devil is a Part-Timer and all the other light novel series that I read. Thanks very much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Until then, bye-bye for now.